Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to the architecture of Hitman World of Assassination. We are on an island with a castle somewhere off the coast of Scotland, apparently. So in the game this is called the Isle of Sgàil. S-G-A-I-L, Scale. I'm pretty sure it's not a real island, and I'm pretty sure this is not a real castle, right? So it's difficult to say exactly where we are because can't see anything. So it's dark and stormy, but I think if you kind of like look closely, I think that's a landmass out there in the distance. So according to the minimap, that's like southeast. But I can't be sure, right? It could just be clouds. It could be clouds, but it looks like a landmass out there. Not 100% sure. We have some rocks out here, and then we have icebergs. So icebergs means that we are pretty far north, although the icebergs can come down to around the north of Scotland. You know, when it's cold. So let's take a quick look at the map and see where we are. Or try to see where we are. So, the United Kingdom is there. Right, we're in Europe, we are in the British Isles. And then Scotland is to the north. And if we zoom in, you can see that there are like a bunch of islands to the north of Scotland. I wonder if this is more helpful. The other map. Kinda yes, kinda no. So, like an island off the coast of Scotland, it could be anywhere, really. And up here there can be icebergs. So like, if we're looking for maybe land towards the southeast, then like maybe, I don't know, here? Possibly? What do these look like? So we have like a rock there. No, that's too close, isn't it? Because this is almost connected. So that seems a little too close. Alternatively, we might not be there. We might be, you know, on one of the other islands. I mean, there's more islands out here, for example. You know, it could be something like this. Possibly, you know, a rock like this, and then across the sea you can see like a landmass in the distance. Maybe, maybe. I suspect that it's just completely fictional, right? I suspect the islands are completely fictional, and they're not actually based on any real islands. But if we do look around, I can see there are a lot of small islands around the north and also to the west of Scotland out here. So there's a bunch of islands. So it could be any of these, or it could be none of these, right? Okay, so not sure where we are, but somewhere around here in the ocean. We do note that, so this is the pier, right? And there's a small boat there. So the fact that that boat is so small means that either we are close enough to the mainland, or, you know, a bigger island, that we can travel here on a boat that small, so it can't be that far away, or else there's a bigger boat out there, a bigger ship out there, and we come off the ship and onto the island on that boat. So, but we don't see a bigger ship out there, right? So there's no bigger ship out there. So if there's no bigger ship, then that means we're kind of close to land, possibly, maybe. Not sure though. Can't really tell. Alright, so about island castles. There are island castles. And the reason you build a castle on an island, not out in the ocean by the way, most islands are much closer to land than this. And the reason you build it on an island is because you don't have to dig a moat. So because you have the water, it's already like, there's a natural barrier, and then you build the castle on top of that. So it's kind of cheaper to do it that way. The issue with building on an island though is that you know, it's easy for you to keep the enemy out because you have the water, but it's also easier for the enemy to keep you in the castle or on the island, because then they can just, you know, you have to get to land at some point. I guess the idea is you want to stay on the island castle until your enemies leave. But the dynamic between like somebody attacking you and you retreating to the castle is they can besiege you, and if you run out of food and water inside the castle, then you lose. Either you die or you have to surrender, right? And so like when you're on an island, it might also be more difficult to get supplies in, or for you to try to escape. So it's kind of like there's pros and cons. So the size of this is also unrealistic. Most castles from this period, so the period is the Middle Ages, somewhere in the Middle Ages, probably not early Middle Ages because of the detailing on the castle walls. So early Middle Ages castles, they're quite simple because early on people just weren't rich enough to build really complicated things. But then as people got richer and as technology progressed, so more innovations were developed to make the castles more effective. And so this would probably be like Middle Ages, I guess. I don't know, just kind of spitballing. Not too early, but later. Probably. But Middle Ages castles in Scotland are usually not this big, and definitely not the island ones. So the size of the castle has implications for how expensive they are to build, and also how expensive they are to maintain and to garrison, right? And Scotland was never that wealthy. It's kind of like a not particularly fertile land on the edge of Europe, and so there was never that much money in Scotland, and this doesn't seem like something you would expect to find in Scotland because it just looks too expensive. A really expensive castle, if you were protecting something expensive, would make sense, right? So what does that mean? If you have like really fertile land that's valuable, like it's agriculturally productive land, then you might build a big castle to protect that because it's valuable land. Or alternatively, sometimes like island forts would be built to defend nearby shipping routes. So if there's like trade routes, the shipping routes, then you might build like a fortified port to, you know, provide some shelter from pirates, and maybe to, you know, attack the pirates if they are a threat. So out here in the north of Scotland, there aren't that many big trade routes, and certainly there's no valuable land here. We're in the ocean, so there's really no practical reason for building a castle this big and this elaborate out here in the middle of the ocean, right? Like when you think about castles, you kind of have to think about the economic justification for it. Like you're not just, well, usually you're not just building a castle just because it's cool. Usually, like, because you're investing so much money into it, there must be an economic justification for spending that money. Although having said that, there are actually castles that people have built just because it's cool. So like it happens sometimes when somebody is just way too rich and has too much money to spend, but not often. And not in the Middle Ages because people weren't that rich back then. Yeah. So as I said, most island forts in Scotland and elsewhere, they're much closer to land, and they're there to defend the land, right? They're not there to defend something in the ocean. So the fact that we're nowhere near land is one of the big reasons why this is extremely suspicious and unlikely. Oh, and supplies too, yeah. Like, how do you get supplies in? How do you get the building materials over here? You're not using local rock. So to build this thing, you have to, like, ship building materials in these sea conditions, and you have to bring the stone and bring the timber in from the mainland. Yeah, no, that's like a huge, difficult, expensive operation to build a castle like this in a place like this. And even today it would be crazy expensive, but you know, back then it's just not realistic. So this is most likely fiction. Let's look at the real thing though, before, don't just trust me. Let's look at some real castle islands, or island castles. Look at this. So these are all Scottish ones. I found 4 of them. So look at that. Ah, look at that. We have a castle on an island. Sweet. But you'll notice that there's grass, and we're also very close to land. So we're not way out in the ocean. We can see the land very clearly. The castle is also much smaller than what we have in the game. This is just like a big stone house, basically. This is located... Can we get a bigger map? Located there, which is... Ah, look at that. So we are there, and that's Scotland, right? And you'll notice that, yes, it is technically in the ocean on an island, but it's very close to land. It's extremely close to land. And this makes sense, because, if you're retreating to your castle... Ah, crap. It doesn't make sense to, like, get into a big boat and sail out way into the ocean to retreat to your castle. You want to just, like, get slightly off and just, be close by. So this makes sense. Right, so this is Castle Stalker, Castle Turam. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but looks like this. So again, we have a rock, and we have a castle. Again, the castle is very small. Slightly bigger than the last one, but it's basically a house, a big stone house, with another bit in front of it. So maybe like 2 stone houses. And that's it. Very simple. You see the walls, they don't really have a lot of... There's no crenellation, which is like the... the bits where you hide your arches behind. And there's like hardly any windows, so it's just like stone. It's very plain, very simple. And that, again, is very close to land. In fact, it's like in a little, what do you call it? Like a fjord? I guess they're not called fjords in Scotland. On a tidal island in a loch. Yeah. Right, so that's another one. And then we have Eileen Dolan? Eileen Dolan looks like this. Look at that. So this, look at this. The architecture of this looks a lot more like the architecture of what we see in the game, right? We have the roofs are still intact. We have some windows, and then we have these gates, right? And then we have a little bit of crenellation and like a few towers. Look at that. Can we just kind of check? Ah, much more similar. Although, again, not nearly as big as what's in the game, right? But this is so close to land that there's a bridge that just joins up to the mainland. And the reason they can build a more elaborate castle here is because it's actually on the mainland, basically. It's just a bridge away. It's just permanently connected. You can just walk across the bridge, right? So this makes it a lot easier to transport building materials and to keep this thing maintained. You'll notice that there's a roof there. The roof is intact. So this is a fairly well-maintained castle. But they can do that because it's literally connected to the land. I think there's like a picture from above, or there it is. So like there's the mainland, and then there's like a bridge, and then there's the castle. So it's, it's not even in the ocean, not really. So this is the most similar to what we see in the game, and just look at the architecture, or look at the date of the architecture. History? Wait a minute. I thought there was like a... Origins of the castle, 1214 to 1249. So like Middle Ages, I suppose. Oh man, it's a whole lot of it's a whole lot of history. Large curtain wall castle was constructed. Okay. So first constructed and then later on they did make additions to it, I believe. Restoration. Yeah, okay. So first built around earlier 13th century. Yeah, okay. Cool. Alright, so the last one. And you know what? I'm just not gonna try to pronounce that. It's there's a castle on an island, and in fact this island's kind of too small for it. Look at it. There's not much of it left though. And where is it located? Oh, it's located on a lake. It's not even on the ocean. What does that look like? Oh, that's not bad. Look at that. That's not bad. But it's very small. It is very, very small. It's basically a stone house. Okay, and so those are some examples of island castles in Scotland, and this is really the most similar to what we're seeing in the game. So, Middle Ages. But this is very well maintained, actually. I mean, you see there's some broken walls, but that stuff is really well maintained. None of the real-life examples are out in the ocean like we are, and none of them are nearly as big as this. So that's the point I want to make. So having said that, in the game though, in the game there's a fictional secret society called the Ark Society. A-R-K, Ark Society. And the Ark Society is a bunch of rich people preparing for the apocalypse. So as we go inside, you see there's like an Ark Society function going on inside the castle. And what they're doing is they're promoting various schemes to help people survive an apocalypse. Silly rich people things. But if you consider that, it might be implied that this Ark Society has actually been around for a very long time. And this castle is not actually a practical castle. It's some sort of safe house to ride out an apocalypse. Like if you imagine a fictional rich person builds a secret castle out in the ocean, and so then if anything goes bad, he just retreats to his castle and he just watches the world destroy itself. So you know, that kind of like a apocalypse preparation. And that would fit in with the whole Ark Society thing and the idea that, hey, this secret society has been around for thousands of years. So maybe that's what this is about. Of course it's all fiction, right? It's not real, so can't really find any comparable examples in the real world to compare with. Alright, so the castle, it's a little complex. Like you already see the shape of it. There's a lot of different shapes. There's like that shape there, and then there's like that shape there, and then there's like other things going on. So it might be a little confusing, but let's try our best to understand the castle. And there's so there's like two things we need to keep in mind. Well, there's two aspects to this. One is the castle as a castle. So like a medieval castle as a medieval castle. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is the Ark Society function that's happening right now. So the medieval castle being used as a place to host a party for rich people discussing doomsday, what do you call it? Doomsday prepping, I guess. So there's two things: the medieval castle as a medieval castle, and secondly the medieval castle as an Ark Society function. Alright, two things. So first of all, we're at a pier. This is concrete, and it appears to be a much more recent construction than the castle, right? I'm not sure I have too much else to say about that. Aside from the fact that if you're going to build a pier and you're going to keep the castle this well maintained, it means that this place is actively occupied. Oh, there's also that glass box up there. I guess that's kind of conspicuous, huh? So there's like modern renovations to parts of the castle as well. There are some suggestions that, you know, over the centuries, renovations and repairs have been made to the castle over time to keep it functional. And this pier would be part of that, right? So like a concrete pier built to serve modern ships. Not too much else to say. It's quite simple. Except that it's quite small. As we go inside, you'll see there's a lot of people in the Ark Society function. And there's definitely not enough boats for everybody. So, we don't know where they came from or how they got here, but there's a lot of people here. And they must have gotten here somehow. But their boats aren't here.
Good evening.
Over here, the game calls this a boathouse. And it is a house with a boat in it, but this boat is way too small, right? This thing is not seaworthy. So there's a conspicuous lack of boats.
Don't mind me, sir.
And I'm not really sure what that means, given how far away from land we are. Well, like, what's the transportation? How do you get here, and how do you get back? Don't know. Not by these boats, that's for sure, right? These tiny little things. Okay, so from the pier, we come up these stairs, stone stairs. The main entry is that way, but there's also a path up to the walls there. This doesn't really make any sense, because this is supposed to be a castle. You're not supposed to help the enemy get up to your walls. So why would there be a path? You're supposed to make it as difficult as possible for any invaders to get into the castle, so you're not going to build a path for them to go up that way. This doesn't make any sense. For the gameplay though, the gameplay, it's kind of important to give the player multiple options to do things, right? For this type of game. So, the first gate. The first gate is kind of ruined. There is space for a portcullis. A portcullis is the steel thing, the steel grill thing that you can drop down to stop people from getting in. So basically like a gate, and like the legs of it would kind of poke into those holes there. There's space for a portcullis, but whatever mechanism, like the crane and the winch to raise and lower the portcullis has been destroyed, I guess, at some point. And in fact, a lot of these walls have been destroyed. Not too sure what this means. It could just be wear and tear. It could be just, you know, a lack of repairs. Or it could be that at some point, this castle was attacked. And it was destroyed by cannon fire. You'll notice that the walls are actually really thin. Look how thin the walls are. The walls are only like what is that, a meter thin? So these walls definitely will not withstand cannon fire. They might not even withstand catapult fire. Although, since we're like in the middle of the ocean, you probably can't get a catapult out here. So the fact that they're not built to withstand cannon fire suggests that, again, this is from the Middle Ages, before gunpowder got to Europe, and before cannons became a thing. And so this wall would become obsolete as soon as you have ships with cannons on them. And maybe that's what happened here. A ship with a cannon destroyed this place. Although if they destroyed the outer walls, not sure why they didn't also destroy the inner walls, because the inner walls aren't any thicker, right? So maybe not. Maybe it's just neglect, and that's why the stuff fell down. Anyway, from here we turn the corner and then we get into the castle grounds in there. So having like a turn is actually kind of important in castle design. We have crossbows and arrows, right? Crossbows and bows. And if you have like long straight lines, crossbows can shoot all the way down and bows can shoot all the way down. And so when you want to defend against an invading army, you don't want like your entry to be just a big long straight line, because then like they can just like shoot arrows straight down at you. So if the path into the castle kind of turns and bends, then it's harder for them to attack you, right? So we bend a bit, and then we have another portcullis, another gate.
Right. Hello, sir.
We come through here and into the lower courtyard. So the first courtyard down here, we get a slightly closer view of the castle. So this is a kill zone, right? You'll notice that this is just a big open space, and there's walls in every direction. Walls in every direction. And the idea of this courtyard is you break the gate, if you manage to break the gate, you come in, you charge in here, and then there's just kind of arrows flying down at you from above. You're just kind of surrounded on all sides by enemies. So this is a kill zone. The lower courtyard. At the moment, for the Ark Society function, they've got a bar here and a stage for some musical performances. Not too much to say about this, I don't think. No? No, alright. Over on this side, we have another portcullis, and then this leads into the underside of the castle, which I think is not correct. So this is a liability. If you're being attacked by an invading army, this would be a liability to have a pathway into the underside of your castle. I think this is here mostly for gameplay purposes. Like, if you design the castle properly, there's really no way for you to go, right? Whereas this is like a stealth assassination game, where you're supposed to have the opportunity to sneak around and like try out different ways to accomplish your objectives. So for gameplay purposes, you want to give the player more freedom to try different things.
Have a good evening.
But a castle does not want to give the enemy any freedom to do anything. The castle wants the enemy to die, and that's it. And so you wouldn't give invading armies options of which door they want to attack. Like that's not something you do in a real castle. So this is probably like a gameplay thing. I wouldn't expect something like this in a real castle. Over to this side, we're not too sure what this is. Well, I mean, I'm not sure what this is in the castle. There's like rooms in the walls.
Make it sound simple. You sign on 3 friends, then they sign.
Given how close we are to the main gate, I suppose you would house soldiers here. Like, you wouldn't put weapons here, because if the enemy comes in, then they steal all your weapons. Like, if they manage to control the lower courtyard, I mean. You would put things here where, if the enemy controls it, they don't get much of an advantage. So I guess you would put barracks down here. Makes the most sense to me. Like, if you put food here, like, and they control this, then you lose the food. If you put weapons here, you lose control of your weapons. Whereas if it's just barracks, then you just lose the beds, and you don't care that much about the bed. Right. Here, this has become a toilet, but the toilet was probably built into here at a later date. I don't think this was originally a toilet, because like a medieval toilet would be different. It wouldn't be this. It would be like a maybe like a stone drum, maybe like a hole. You poop into the hole, like a historic toilet would be a lot different from this. Over here we have storage room. Again, no real indication what these spaces were used for in the past.
So I'm sure I know what it looks like.
Here,
The venture capitalist. He looked like a
the game calls this. Let me just check. The game calls this
Plays fair. When that Haven corporate services he was like the only trader in New York who came up clean.
Oh, I
Imagine
didn't
that.
have it.
so not
The game calls this the Patrons Lounge, right?
Precisely.
The Patrons Lounge?
Dennis Bertrand.
But if you look at the screen there, look at that. Welcome new initiates. So the initiates, the new members to the Ark Society,
His whole life.
Neither have I. And I
are
was
in this
last
room.
year.
That's different. You cheated.
We have more storage back here. I'm not gonna look into every storage space and every little corridor in the entire castle, because there's a lot of them. And then, back to the lower courtyard on the other side, also inside the walls,
Well, one thing I like about the
we have the Stronghold showroom. So that's just a bit of catering, and then
Sir?
here... Oh, look at this. So the Stronghold, I believe Stronghold is the brand for their bunkers, their luxury bunkers. So this is a showroom demonstrating what one of their luxury bunkers might look like should you purchase one from the Ark Society. So this whole event is basically like a sales pitch to try and get these rich people to buy stuff that the Ark Society is offering. Oh, look at that. State-of-the-art toilet, so you can poop with high technology. Not too much to say about this. Alright, back to the castle. So from the lower courtyard, we come through here. Alright, there's a gate. I think there should be a portcullis here as well. There should be a portcullis on every gate. The problem is that there's no gatehouse, so like there's no winch to lift and lower the portcullis. So there needs to be like a building up here to fit the machinery, right? Comes through here, up a ramp, and again you'll notice there's like walls everywhere. So this is another kill zone. Another kill zone if you try and like get through into the inner courtyard. Again, another portcullis, or supposed to be, except once again no gatehouse. Oh, those things, look at that. We've got murder holes up there. So murder holes is when you're like right underneath the walls, it's kind of hard for someone on top of the walls to hit you. And so murder holes were an invention to allow you to drop things directly down the side of the walls to hit guys right underneath. In movies, you would have people like pouring boiling oil through these holes down at the people below. Historically, supposedly they didn't use oil because oil is too expensive. They would just use boiling water, which works perfectly fine. You don't need oil. Murder holes, and I suppose... Alright, and we're missing portcullis. And then we get to here, and this is the upper courtyard. Another courtyard. And this time, I mean, there are still some walls above, but you'll notice that there's a lot less defenses here. So I think the implication is that the castle does not expect any invader to manage to get into here. Like, if you get into here, you're kind of screwed. Because you see these staircases, unless the staircases are later constructions, and they might be. Hold on, let me just check. The staircases might actually be later constructions. Maybe, I shouldn't be so hasty. So assuming that the staircases are original, as in they were built at the same time as the main castle, the staircases then lead to the chapel. That's the chapel back there, that building there, and then that's the main castle up there. So the staircases just lead straight in, and you know, by the time to get to here, you can't stop the enemy. Like, you've already lost to the enemy. So the places to stop the enemy would be outside the castle, in the first courtyard, in this corridor, and if they get through, then, you know, you're screwed. But it's possible that this is actually not original. Let me just look at that staircase. It's possible these two staircases are not original, because that looks a little bit too ornamental, doesn't it? Yeah, no, maybe it's not original. Maybe this is a later addition. Oh, what's going on here? They have a money burning ceremony. Look, that woman's gonna throw some money in there. I don't need money, I'm too rich. Take that. Take my money. Set it on fire, I don't give a crap. They have some weird ritual about burning money. And we have a modern sculpture over there. It's all theatrics. It's theatrics to trick these people into paying money, right?
Taking so long. You're so impatient, you know.
So from here, the game and the current design of the castle wants us to come over this way and up this staircase, which then leads us to this terrace beside the main castle. There's these things across here, which is interesting. I think there used to be a roof here, but not anymore. Right, so we have like a terrace. And remember, as we go up and up and up, it becomes more and more exclusive, right? So the higher up you go, the richer you are and more special you are within the Ark Society. This goes back over the ramp there, right? So this is part of the castle walls, and in fact we have like ruined castle walls going in that direction as well. And then from here, you would go into the main castle through this door. Right, this is the main castle. We'll come back to this. But you'll notice that actually the main door to the castle is that one, not that one. So this is a little bit odd. So what I think actually, is that this staircase might be a later addition and not part of the original design of the castle. Because the main entry to the castle is actually this way. Like you come out to here, there's the upper courtyard, and then over in this direction, actually this wall might be a... Maybe you're supposed to go all the way back here. Oh, I'm not sure. But that can't be right because this is the wall. No. I'm lost. Not sure how this works, but at some point you come to here. But then what is this? Slightly incoherent. But from this point, you get onto the castle walls, or the outer walls of the castle. Remember that the boat's down there. And then from this point, this is how you get into the front door of the castle. So you come in from the boat, you go up that way, through the first gate, through the first courtyard, under here, through that ramp to the second courtyard, and then around and around and up to here. And so you have like a looping path. And the reason you have this big looping path is because you want to make the enemy walk a longer distance to get to your front door. And along the way, they're getting shot by your archers, and they're getting attacked by your soldiers. And so the longer the path is, and the more convoluted it is, the harder it is for them to fight their way up to you. So that's the purpose of, you know, castle design, is to like funnel your enemies into kill zones where it's difficult for them to get to you, right? Like you might question, well, why don't we just have a staircase directly from the front gate up to the front door? Why does the staircase not just go down there? Because you wanna like make it harder for the enemy to get to you, right? So you have this giant loop, and then we get up to the main castle. And this is the front door. Now in the front door, traditionally you would directly have the banquet table right here. Because like just immediately start banqueting. It's not that you want to immediately start eating. It's that
Good to see you.
there's a custom of providing hospitality to people, even to people you don't really like. Because, you know, that's what you do, right? So you would give them a meal, or you would like feed them here, and you don't necessarily have to let them further into your castle if you don't like them. So the banquet hall is here, or it would be here. At the moment it's been turned into a sort of a museum display, and they've got a bunch of artifacts on display, I suppose.
Good to see plenty of security here.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Back here... Actually, which way should I go first? Doesn't matter too much, I guess. The back of the castle is back this way. I'm not gonna go out there yet,
Tremendous today.
just to keep this in mind. Or try to keep this in mind, what this space is. Back here we have a staircase going up. And this is the back door. This room here is currently working on the artifacts, some of which are in the museum display. And others are here in this room. And here we have a toilet. Nothing remarkable. So there's a staircase there, but then if we come over this way, there's also a staircase here. Slightly odd. Slightly odd. Maybe this is one building and this is an addition. Maybe. But if it is... Oh no, I guess it is. Ah, I see. Yeah, no, this is confusing even for me. So I think what's going on here is that there's one building here and a different building here. So there's two staircases, one for each. Although they have like opened up the doorways between them. So now they're one building. Because otherwise, why would you have so many stairs in one building? No, I think these are meant to be two different buildings. And... would this always have been open? You know, it's possible that they were like two different towers and they weren't open in between. And the reason you do that is if the enemy takes one building, they still have to come back out and take the other building. Again, like you have like, your castle is divided into like a standalone block and a standalone block and another standalone block. And so like taking one doesn't mean they've taken the others, so it's kind of like more work for them to take all of them. But these two are like right next to each other. In fact, they're kind of joined together. And now they have these doorways open between them, so it's no longer one block. It's no longer two blocks. It's been joined into one block, right? So that defensive function doesn't exist anymore. But you could imagine, you know, you just have a bunch of blocks, but they're not open in between, and so if you take one, it doesn't help you take the other ones. Anyway, let's take the stairs up.
Hello there, sir.
And try to remember like there's two blocks. There's like a rectangular thing and a square thing, right? So up this stairs. Oh, there's a courtyard up there. Don't worry about that. Come back to that later on. Those stairs continue going up that way. Here we're in the upstairs area above what I would think would be the banquet hall, but it might not be. It could just be a big entryway. It seems way too big to be an entryway. Could be a throne room, but I don't think a throne room's appropriate either. I think this would be a banquet hall. And then here, this is the staircase for the main block, right? Where should we go? Up the main block? Up the side block? Doesn't matter. Alright, up the side block.
Hello, sir.
And then on this floor, we have the Hyboria exhibition. So remember how I was talking about the Ark Society doing business with apocalypse scenarios. So Hyboria apparently is building domed cities in the ice, I guess. Maybe in Antarctica? Oh, that's expensive. They're gonna build a whole domed city up in the ice. So this is what is this? The second scheme. The first scheme is just your personal bunker. The second scheme is a whole city in Antarctica. Oh, I guess I should talk about the architecture too. I don't know if there's too much to say about the architecture. It's like timber. It looks new, so it's very well maintained. I can say that. The bar is temporary. Look at how the bar doesn't fit. So the bar is a temporary thing put in here for the function. Hyperborea is here.
Hello there,
So
sir.
this is this block. Okay, now we're in the main castle block. Oh, keycard. Over here we have a sort of a study. It's been taken over by these guys though. So the furniture is like not broken. We have the curtains. There's it's not broken. The chairs and things. So this whole castle is actively occupied. People live here. Despite the fact that the outer walls are crumbling, it is actually, on the inside, is well maintained. And actively used. We have more security over here in this room. Right, the storage back there, we don't need to see more storage. I don't think there's too much to say about the decorations, right? No. Like, everything looks great. Like, the shiny flooring, I believe, is temporary, yeah. So the shiny, bright, shiny, futuristic-looking stuff, it's all temporary installations into the castle, which is much more old-fashioned.
I haven't mentioned it to the family yet, but
Where am I going? So, on this side, the staircases stop going up. So the, oh, there's another study here. The main castle stops here, and then the tower next to it
Fallout, nuclear
continues going up
It all
this
just-
way.
Oh, greetings.
And we have an even more exclusive room. What's this place called? The Counselor's Lounge is what this place is called. So even more high-ranking Ark Society members, they have their personal musician.
good day.
And look at those. Those paintings are different. I haven't been looking at the paintings much either. Those look like medieval, early medieval paintings. I guess there's all sorts of paintings.
Sir.
So the council's room, we are climbing the tower, right? And so the rooms are small, and then we just kind of go up the stairs and up the stairs. Above the councillors, we have... Ah, interesting. The game calls this the Conclave. It's just the fancy name for a bunch of rich people cosplaying. So the Conclave meets here. Interesting that the ceilings are different. I mean, I think this is supposed to be more ornate than the ceilings down below. It's hard to keep track. Like, they're all different, but they're all kind of the same thing anyway. Anyway, more timber. More curtains. And then, continuing up, this is the glass box at the top of the tower. So this is worth talking about. Like, everything else is just kind of the same thing, different colors. This, so the tower, the top of the tower has collapsed at some point, or broken off. Not sure how tall the tower would have been when it was intact. But they have installed a glass box around what remains of the top of the tower. It's important because you want to protect the tower, and because if it rains, it would just rain down, and the water would just pour in, right? So it keeps the weather out, it keeps the rain out, and it keeps the inside warm because we are quite far north and we're quite high up, so it'll be super cold and windy up here otherwise. Interesting. And I guess the... Oh, is that concrete? I guess the glass box would be bolted, or like, you know, bracketed onto the stone where it's intact. You can kind of see a bit of how that works around the sides. Can we see that? Kind of. You see the stone there, and then on some kind of bracket, the steel frame, and then the glass box, right? So that's interesting. So, okay. What does this mean, right? It means that the stuff down below is not as old as it looks. Because think about this. If there were no glass box here, every time it rains, the water would pour down the staircase. Right? And that would just destroy all the furnishings downstairs. So the furnishing downstairs could only be there after the glass box has covered the top and provided waterproofing. Ah, you see how that works? So the furnishings downstairs would have been built, or at least would have been repaired, after the glass box was built. And this glass box is quite modern, right? Couldn't be more than 50 years old. Probably much less than 50 years old. So then, this stuff, right? So this flooring, there does not appear to be obvious water damage, right? So these curtains would be new, like this. This would be new, or this would have to go in after the glass box, right? That timber arch. Like the stone stuff was probably there. Oh, look at that, there's a concrete arch there too, look at that. Oh, the floor is concrete. So, like, into the tower, they've put a concrete floor and the glass box. Interesting.
Sir.
And like in here, would the water come down here if the glass box wasn't there? So this is actually new. It's not old. It's not several hundred years old. It looks like it could be several hundred years old just by the design of it. But if it was, it would have a lot of water damage before the glass box went in, right? So this is actually new. Oh, it's a lie. Oh, they're lying about the history of the Ark Society. Because the point of having the Ark Society function in an old castle like this is to give you the impression that the Ark Society has survived for thousands of years. And therefore we can trust them to help me survive for as long as I want to live, right? Like the implied long history of the Ark Society, like, builds trust. But
have a consequential evening, sir.
But if we interpret the glass box roof as being necessary for any of the furnishings below to survive, that means that all those furnishings are only several decades old. Even though it's made to look like it's old, it's actually only several decades old. One last thing I want to talk about is the conspicuous lack of buttresses and interior columns. So stone like this is like unreinforced stone. It's just like blocks of stone put on top of each other, right? With some mortar, but not very much. The mortar doesn't have a lot of strength, and with small stone construction like this, you need like a lot of columns and a lot of buttressing to stop the everything from falling apart. If you look at like a Gothic cathedral, like you have a lot of columns and then arches and then like more columns and buttresses just to hold everything up. So small stone construction like this, you can't really build something this tall without a whole lot of columns and buttresses. So the lack of columns and buttresses is structurally inaccurate. I don't think it's possible, but I guess we'll let it slide. It's a video game, right? So what you would have is you would have like in the walls, you would have structural columns built into the walls, and then in the interior space, you would need like at least one column, maybe several columns inside each of these spaces, just to hold everything up.
Ah, good evening, sir.
Yeah, like that. Oh, is that water damage? Is that water damage? It kind of is. Yeah, you know, maybe it's all fake. Maybe the building is not nearly as old as it seems. Is that concrete? That curve is concrete, right? That's not stone. It's not small stone. I mean, some concrete makes sense, like, because the castle is kind of falling apart, so you would like reinforce part of it with newer construction and newer structure. So the fact that some of this is concrete is not, it's not like implausible. I'm just trying to figure out like what's new, what's old. Not too sure actually. Anyway, so we're at the tower. Let's go back down the tower. And as we said, like as you go up the tower, it becomes more and more exclusive. We are here. Okay, so we've been to... Let me just check this. So we have lower courtyard, upper courtyard. We have been through all the floors of the main castle. And then we have also been through all the floors of the tower. We're gonna go up here now. There's like a tower citadel, a separate tower citadel. Over this way, so there's a tower there, which is completely separate from this tower here. Again, the idea of having multiple towers in your castle complex is so that if the enemy captures one, they still have to come back out and then capture the other one. Like they don't just like capture one and then that's it. This bridge, I believe, is a completely new addition. I mean, obviously it's glass and steel, so it's not original medieval bridge. But even if you look at the wall, you'll notice there's no traces of there ever being a stone bridge here. It's just a smooth wall, right? So there was never a bridge here until the glass and metal bridge was put in. Which I don't know how that makes sense for the door then. Unless the door is... I mean, the door has to be a later addition. But they did a pretty good job making it look like it fits into the original building, right? I guess they just cut the stone and they put the door frame in. Alright, so this on this side we have another tower. We have something of a study. So this is interesting. The feel of this feels lived in. Right, this feels like somebody works here all the time. And part of it is stuff like this. It's like there's a cigar with ashes in the ashtray. But also just the scale of this feels a lot more like a building that somebody actually uses. Up the stairs, we have another office desk, a little bit of a sitting area. Although you'll notice there's no bed. So, in fact, there are no beds in the entire castle. So nobody lives here long term? I don't think. But there's enough bathrooms. There's a bathroom here, let me check. Yeah, there's a bath. If they don't live here, why would there be a bath? They don't sleep in the bath, do they? Yeah, no, there's no beds. So, presumably nobody lives here full time. So, is this just a showroom? Is this just a showpiece? I don't know. Not sure how to interpret that. Is that the sun or the moon? Hold on. It seems too high up to be either. Because we are very high up. We're very far north. The sun should be further down, I think. Unless this is the middle of summer. This could be the middle of summer up here. Further up, we have the top of the tower, and we have a helipad at the moment. Curious that an old tower like this can support the weight of a helicopter. Although helicopters, they're not that heavy, because they need to fly, right? It's like planes and helicopters, they're lighter than they appear, actually. But even so, it is not nothing, right? It is still weight. And they're putting a helicopter on top of a really old stone tower. And I'm not sure if that's sensible. Also, there's water here, and it's just pooling. If this is poorly maintained, the water would just seep through, and it will leak inside the building, right? But if we come down here, there's no leaking down here. The implication being that the waterproofing is really well done. And by really well done, what I mean is, I kind of don't believe it. I don't believe a building like this would be so waterproof.
Good evening, sir.
I mean, unless they've done a lot of work in the ceiling here to make it waterproof. Otherwise, the water would just drip through and start pooling down here, right? Curious. Oh, there's a fireplace. Hold on, is there a chimney? Where's the chimney? Where's the chimney? There's a door where the chimney should be. They didn't think about this. They didn't think this through, did they? No. The chimney goes nowhere? Chimney... yeah, no. The chimney goes nowhere. So on this side, there's more staircases, and we can get into the underside of the tower. So now we have no decorations, right? We have no ornamentation. We are in the service areas of this tower. A bunch of boxes. It's kind of cool. A stone vault there. This is storage. Nothing remarkable. And then down the bottom of the tower citadel we have more storage. That's a heater, I think. More storage. And we have a mortician who has set up in this space. There's a funeral being prepared.
Oh, no. Just moisture from the ceiling. There we go. Good ad.
Right, so there's a mortician there, and... Alright, so structurally sound still. You can see that actually. No, look at that. So the stone columns, and then I think the wood is actually propping the columns and stopping them from like buckling. Like when you look at this, you might think, oh, the column is holding up the beam. No, the beam is actually holding the columns in place so the columns don't fall over. Right. And then back down. So there's the... This is the tower citadel, and then the main castle is over there, and then this is the tower attached to the main castle. And as I said, there's no trace of there ever being a bridge here before the glass and steel bridge was put in. Okay, so now where are we? So here we have like a courtyard. Oh right, the main entrance to the castle is there. The main gate, remember? So this is the main gate. Not the main gate, the front door. So to this side of the front door we have a bit of a an open space in which there is a stone circle. Kind of a Stonehenge. Standing stones. So standing stones, if these are real and historic, would suggest that this was a sacred place, even in prehistory. Assuming these are real and historic. They don't have to be. They could just be like more recently erected. It could just be like a bunch of stones somebody piled up yesterday. Like, you don't know. Do they look like they've been here for thousands of years? I'm not sure that they do. Do they? No? Like, have the plants grown into them? Yeah, no, like, you can't really tell. Maybe they were put in last year. Maybe they were here 3,000 years ago. We don't know. So there's this courtyard, just to make sure you know where we are. There's the lower courtyard, and then the path up to the upper courtyard, right? And then the walls all around.
Have a good evening.
Okay, so through the building. So there's like an outdoor space here. If we come in here, let's go up the stairs, up these stairs.
Yes, hello, sir.
And then out this door. There's another yard out here. So the corners of the castle. Actually, can you go down? Oh, you have to climb down. Up here we have a well. So wells are important. So when your castle is besieged, the most urgent thing is water. If you have water, you can survive at least several weeks, even without food, maybe even several months. But if you have water and food, you can survive a long time. If you don't have water, you can't survive more than a few days, and you have to surrender very quick. So every castle needs water, either water storage or access to fresh water. Now there's a well here, but I don't really think there's much groundwater. We're in the ocean. So and we're on a rock. So I can't imagine there's much fresh water underground here. This might be a cistern. Maybe they're catching rainwater and putting it down there. And I don't know, maybe it rains a lot. I guess it does rain a lot up in the north of Scotland. But even then, I'm not sure it will catch enough water to be able to supply a full garrison. Because this castle is pretty big, right? So the water supply is there. Whether it's sufficient, I'm not really sure. Is that... Okay, so we've been to the main castle building. We've been to that one. Alright, so behind the main castle, and it's kind of hard to tell because everything's kind of joined up, but this is a separate building here. Right, so the main castle building is that one. And there's a separate block here. This is a warehouse. At the moment, it's a warehouse. Look at this. There's a an elevator down there. And at the moment, there's a whole bunch of boxes and artifacts. Alright, so about these artifacts, right? The story is that some of these Ark Society people, they are acquiring
It's all about giving the super
rare
rich
artifacts
so they donate
from around the world to protect them. Which means they're stealing them, basically. They're stealing artifacts while telling themselves that they're going to preserve these things in case there's an apocalypse. So that's what's going on here. That's why there's all these artifacts all over the place. In here we have a security room. So one end of the warehouse has been used for security. Downstairs we have more warehouse. Right, a lot of boxes. Now this is curious. This is elevator, right? Not too sure where it goes, and we can't see. So this suggests that there's some hidden entry. There might be like a sea cave underneath the rock, and maybe you can get a boat in here and ship cargo up this way. That would be very useful, because otherwise how would you get heavy cargo into this castle from anywhere, right? So if this is a sea cave, this would be very convenient. Not sure if it is though. Also, if you look at the ground, this is concrete. Look at the walls. This is concrete, the column is concrete. Concrete suggests relatively recent construction, definitely not Middle Ages construction. Let me just go back upstairs. Is it concrete upstairs as well? Is this concrete? It's concrete, right? Upstairs is... no, it's also concrete. Interesting. I mean, it could be a lot of things. It could be they reinforced the old building with a concrete structure inside so that it would stay standing up. Or it could be this building is not as old as it looks. Maybe it's actually a new building pretending to be an old building. How would you know? What do these stones look like up close? It looks kinda convincing, but it's very flat though. What do these look like up close? Wait a minute. Look at how rough, how much weathering there is on the edges of those bricks there, right? Well, that looks the same. Does this look the same? No, there's significantly less weathering. Did they really pay this much attention to detail? Look at the weathering on the edges of those bricks there. And so this is fake weathering? It's not actually as old as it looks? Is that what's going on? Or is this just a coincidence? Could it really be that the game designers paid this much attention to detail? That's wild, if they did. Because the interior of this... and this is not an old building. That's concrete, right? Oh, some of this castle is not real. I mean, it's real, but it's not what it looks like. Really? I mean, that's definitely concrete. I should climb the tower again, just to look at the stonework. The thing is, I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure if the game designers actually paid this much attention to this. I mean, this is wet weathered, right? So this is the weathered texture. Maybe they didn't, or maybe this is old and then the stuff behind is actually new. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
Have a good evening.
In any case, over here we have a chapel. So next to the castle there's a chapel. Back in the Middle Ages, religion was important. The chapel... anything to say about that? Not really.
Hello, sir.
Oh, the roof? Huh, the roof is timber. The roof is timber, but it's also broken, so I guess it's implied it's been there for a while.
Never imagined I would grow up and
The floor is also
actually
timber.
become one. Or that it would be so much more fun than my
There's
bullshit
curtains there, but the
infantile
roof is
fantasies.
broken. I don't know why would you do keep the curtains like that? Cause look, if the curtains get wet, it'll get moldy. It's... I mean, if it's not weathertight, you wouldn't put curtains up. This is super weird. This is super weird. The inside of the chapel, so there's more security guys just chilling out back here. And there's a hole in the floor there, and a hole in the ceiling there. Although the rafter is still in place, surprisingly. I was gonna say that this looks like a mortar has come through. A mortar, so a cannon is the cannon fires more or less horizontally, or like at a slight angle. A mortar fires at a very high angle to get over walls, and it'll drop down from above. It looks like something dropped down from above and smashed all the way through the floor, right? Although, if you look at that, there's nothing down there, so maybe not. Maybe I'm just tripping. Or does that look like it's been repaired? It kind of looks like it's been repaired down there. So maybe there was a mortar attack on the chapel? Possibly. And then back here we have more chapel. I think this is they're fudging it a bit here. I mean, no, maybe not. So the cross is there. No, this is the main chapel. There's a room behind here. At the moment it's mostly storage. And then here we have the chapel tower. Up the tower. And then everything's broken. But we can get up the tower here. So there we are. There's the upper courtyard there. There's the main castle. There's the glass box above the tower. Right. Now, what else do I have to show? Is that it? No, there's still the service areas. Let me just check my notes. Back of the castle. Oh, right. It's convoluted. I get confused. Through here. Back through the chapel.
Tell you about my mission to Egypt. The Eye of Horus amulet.
So this is the main castle building, right? Back here, underneath the staircase, we go into caves. But there's caves underneath the castle. And look at that. They've put in some steel support in the caves underneath here. And if you look at that, they've also put some wire mesh to make sure the rocks don't fall down. So this tells us that these caves are falling apart. Because otherwise you won't need to hold them up with these, and then you won't need to make sure the rocks don't fall down. So that the mesh is for safety, and then these steel supports are to hold up the cave, to make sure the thing doesn't fall down completely on you. So that's a little bit concerning, suggesting that the foundations are not secure, and that the caves are basically caving in, and they're being propped up by the steel columns. Through here, more caves. Well, there's a vault built into the caves.
Why are they burned to death?
We have, what is that, wine barrels? And then over here we have the kitchen. Okay, so the kitchen is underneath the castle. Makes sense.
Hello.
These kitchen appliances are modern, which is interesting, but I think the kitchen was always here because there's this little space. So this would have been the old oven, I guess. Or is it like oven on either side and then there's like a place for a big fire? Oh, there's no chimney though. That's a bit weird. But I guess they now use the modern appliances and don't start a big fire anymore. Cold storage, right? Makes sense. And then more kitchen storage, dishwashing, more wine, right? And then through here we have more storage. So through here, this is the castle walls, right? I don't need to go around the castle walls again. And then down here... Wait, this is the rock. Okay, this is natural rock. This building is built into the rock. And then we get to this stuff, right? And now we're back at the lower courtyard. Remember the path that I said really shouldn't be here because it's a security liability? This one. So that leads into the kitchens. So remember how I said, oh, why would you allow a path into the underside of your main castle like this? If somebody invades the castle, this is a terrible vulnerability. So I still don't think it makes sense, but it's there for gameplay reasons, I believe.
Cheryl, you wouldn't happen to have one of those tokens, would you?
So, one more thing. So the main castle's back there, right? There's this little doorway. Again, it gets under the castle. Just gonna wait for the guy to open.
Come on in.
So in here, there's a little secret tunnel again. Not sure why it's a cave because we're inside the walls. And we get to here. We have a dungeon with cells. I guess every castle needs a dungeon. Oh, and like bones. Ah, very nice, bones. In here, the basement, I guess, or like the catacombs under the castle, it's been turned into an initiation space. So remember, like the initiates were near the entrance, and then as you go higher up, your membership increases in rank. So this is the place where the initiates get ranked up into a full membership. If we look at the walls, what was I gonna say? Oh, it's back here. This goes back to the kitchens, so it's all connected, right? The kitchens, the wine barrels, the kitchens back that way. Oh, right here. Look at the walls here. There's water on the ground, and there's water sheeting down the wall there, and they've kind of nailed these planks or bolted these planks into the walls to try to hold things in. So that's a bad sign. The water coming in, and this is just collapsed. That's a bad sign. So it looks like the foundations are not as well maintained as you would hope. So water sheeting in like this, it's a big problem because the running water will erode, and like it will eventually like eat through the mortar between the stone, and then everything gets weaker and it will eventually collapse, right? So you really don't want water seeping through the walls like this. It's really bad for any building. Oh man, it's dripping too. I don't know how they can fix this except to take the wall off, waterproof it, and then put the wall back up. So there's no easy fix, but you gotta do something about it before your whole building falls down, right? And then through here, this is kind of weird. This part, the staircase. What is this? Is that stone? Okay, this is stone, but this is concrete. I mean, it could be they just kind of faced the existing thing with concrete, but I don't think that's what happened. So there's like a little concrete thing down here, and then in the ground there's pipes. Where do the pipes come from, and where do they go? I don't know if this is a mistake, or if this is like why would there be pipes under the a medieval castle, there are modern pipes. How would you get it under the castle? You have to dig a hole under the castle without collapsing the whole castle? And where does it go? Like, what are you piping? What are you piping? Are there more machines underground somehow? I don't know why this is here. I don't know why this is here. This is a sewer. In the game labels this as a sewer, but it could actually be an escape tunnel because nothing's coming down here, right? There's no poop. Well, I guess maybe that's poop. No, it's blocked. Yeah, the game calls this a sewer, but there's no sewage in the sewer. This could just be an escape tunnel, a secret escape tunnel. It does lead out to the ships. Although, you know, on the one hand you have a secret escape tunnel, on the other hand it's also a security liability. Because if you're invading the castle and you find this, you can just sneak in instead of having to fight your way through the main gate. So I don't know about this. This seems a bit weird. It could just be here because for gameplay reasons you need to have multiple entries into the castle, right? It could just be that. Just like a thing they put in here for gameplay reasons. Over here we have a crypt. We have a sarcophagus, stone sarcophagi. Those look like they're from the Middle Ages. And then more crypt. Couple of guards. Oh, another hole in the wall. I'm not sure if that's like plausible, because wouldn't that, like, that's not structurally sound, right? They really should fix this hole. Cause the building above, I mean, I guess the building above is resting on this arch, so maybe it's not that bad. But it's a bit unreliable. Okay, so this hole in the wall again comes back out to the upper courtyard. And I think that's the whole Isle of Sgàil. I just wanna like really quickly come back in here. Because, you know, as I said, like the tower below the glass box, that would not have been weatherproof before the glass box was put in place, right? So is all this new? Maybe this is all new. Maybe none of this is historic. The thing is, it looks new too, is the thing. I was saying before, well, it's really well maintained. Okay, maybe it's really well maintained. Or maybe all this is actually new.
Hey there! Oh,
Or like not new, but not any older than the glass box above, right? Yeah. And remember, like I said, how there doesn't seem to be anything I can say about this. Like, okay, it looks like old ornamentation, but it doesn't. It all looks the same. And maybe, like, if it's new, it would make sense. Because if it's old, you would recognize historic styles. I look at this, I don't recognize any historic styles. So it's quite possible that all of this stuff is new, and there are no historic styles, and that's why I couldn't see anything when I looked at it. I really don't know if this is intentional. Like, if this is intentional level design, it's next level stuff, right? They actually thought about the fact that the castle is not as old as it looks. Or like, you know, a lot of the furnishings are not as old as it looks. And then maybe some of this stuff is fake. And the fact that, like, there's a sewer, there's a concrete sewer with pipes in the ground underneath the, maybe it's fake. Maybe the whole thing is fake. Remember how I said at the beginning of the video? It doesn't make any sense why there's a castle out here Like it doesn't serve any defensive purposes, and it's bigger than any real castle. Maybe it's all fake. Maybe we're in a simulation. We are in a simulation. We're in a video game. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. But there's a lot of suspicious stuff. But it's not just that it's wrong, right? It's not just that the suspicious stuff is wrong, but maybe it's on purpose. It's possible it's on purpose. There's a way you can explain it where it is on purpose, and then it makes even more sense that way. I don't know if I'm just crazy or not. Anyway, that's the Isle of Sgàil. I think I kind of went in too far into the rabbit hole, and maybe I shouldn't have looked at it that closely. Alright, let's sum up. So, this castle, stylistically, it is from the Middle Ages. Not early Middle Ages, maybe middle to late Middle Ages. Right, just the style of it and the amount of detailing there is. But no castle from that era could be in this location and be this big. In fact, I'm pretty sure there were no castles from that era in this location. And by this location, I mean this far away from the coastline. And not this big either. Just because like people just weren't rich enough to do this. It takes a lot of money to do this. To like ship all these materials out here. So it's like a... it's like a thing that you can't believe exists. It looks convincing at first glance, but it's actually impossible, if you think about it. The castle is also remarkably well preserved. Even though there are crumbling walls, right? There are walls that are clearly broken. But if you get past that, like this is remarkably well preserved. And there's not too many explanations for why some parts are completely broken and some parts are not, aside from if the buildings have been actively maintained, actively renovated or actively maintained over time, right? Because otherwise the main castle would be as broken as everything else if there was no renovation going on. So it's quite likely that it's restored. It's been renovated. And maybe even completely rebuilt, who knows, right? The interiors are richly decorated and in very good condition. In fact, suspiciously so. Suspiciously good condition. And it's possible that none of it is as old as it looks, right? Because, I've said it already, that glass box is what provides weatherproofing for everything down below. Before you build the glass box, the rain would come down and cause water damage to everything down below. So everything down below, since there's no obvious water damage anywhere, must have been restored or built after the glass box was put in place. So it's actually all new, basically. And then in some parts there's concrete bits, and then there's like steel reinforcing down in the basement. So there's like modern construction work, and the pier is also concrete. So there's modern construction work in some parts to make sure the castle stays standing. Right. The layout of the castle is pretty good. Remember how we talked about there's the gate, and then there's the first courtyard where there's basically nothing down there except soldiers, and then you get shot at from above, so there's like a kill zone here, and then another gate, and then another kill zone here, and another gate, and then another kill zone there. And so it's like a series of spaces where everywhere you go you're surrounded by people shooting arrows down at you. So, in terms of a castle design, this is exactly how a castle should be designed. So the people who made this map clearly did their research, and they know what real castles look like and how they're arranged. So top marks there. Some parts of it is a little strange, like the sewer is an unnecessary vulnerability. That gate up into the kitchens is an unnecessary vulnerability. But I think those were put in for gameplay reasons, and they're not really, you know, they wouldn't be there in a real castle, I don't think. The Ark Society event, as we said, it's arranged hierarchically, right? So as you get higher in rank, you're allowed to go further up. It's okay, it makes sense. It's kind of basic, it's kind of simple, but okay, it makes perfect sense. Not too much to say about that. They've basically put very shiny, modern furniture and temporary displays into the spaces inside the castle, right? Yeah, no, it's very interesting. The level is very interesting overall. And I think architecturally they've really thought this thing through. And everything, mostly it makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't say everything makes sense, but enough makes sense that it's very interesting to look at. Ultimately, though, it's all fiction, right? There's no castle like this out here in Scotland, in this place. Like, it's a thing that you can believe could have existed, but it doesn't exist. It's a shame. Okay, and that's the Isle of Sgàil. Very complicated, actually, but also very interesting. We still have to eliminate Sophia Washington, though, so let me go ahead and... Sophia Washington.
Both targets down. Impressive work, 47. And now, to confront the Constant. Mr. Gray, what's your status?
Oh, I'm not going to
I got
confront
the
the
helicopter, but the
Constant.
place is crawling with security. 47, you better bring the Constant to one of the boats in the harbor where it's quiet. You can use
Yeah,
the kill
never
switch
mind.
to coerce.
Never mind what he just said, I'm not doing that. In the next video, we are going to a bank in New York. Right, so we're going into something much more familiar and much more easy to understand than this castle. Let's get out of here. And next time I will see you in a fancy bank in New York. I'll see you there.